Hi everyone, it's TJ Higgs here and welcome to the first edition of Spiritually Speaking, my new podcast. And I say new, so 2 years ago, before the world kind of exploded a little bit, I set up Spiritually Speaking as a podcast, and then due to the world changing very, very quickly, I didn't have enough time to dedicate to managing to put out a podcast as often as I would have liked to. So it's taken me 2 years to kind of get here, and with a lot of nagging from a lot of friends and a lot of people that would say to me, which is correct, I have to say, that I am very honest, I'm very down to earth. What you see is what you get. So if you meet me in person, you are meeting the real me. I don't have a celebrity persona, I'm just me. So and over the last 2 years, I have watched numerous spiritual people appear and evolve, and I know the lockdown was very important for people to find their purpose and find something to do. And in fact, I facilitated that. That's why I was so busy during lockdown. But what's happened now is there are people that are giving off the wrong kind of information, they're scaremongering, and just some of the things that are out there are just incredible, you know. So I obviously sit and listen and read and moan about it. So I kind of, the idea of the podcast now is, and it always was, to debunk the truth, debunk the myths, you know, bring a little bit of reality, you know, keep it real for people, because there's so much stuff out there that just isn't true, and it's a little bit scary that what people will believe, you know. And the thing is, when you work as a medium, you attract people that are grieving, and rightly so, but grieving can make people vulnerable, and vulnerability can you know, vulnerable people will generally accept things and accept information and take on board information that without the grief, I don't know quite how to put this, but without the grief, they wouldn't be so vulnerable, would they? So sometimes their vulnerability can be played on, and they can be believing some of this information that's being shared. And so, yeah, it was, well, stop sitting there moaning about it and do something about it. So again, this is pushed me to start the podcast. So I do hope you enjoy it. It is my beliefs, it is my knowledge of 22 years of working as a medium and developing as a medium. And I always say developing because I am constantly and continually adding to my knowledge, my vocabulary. So I don't profess to know it all, but I do know a lot. And I've read for, I don't know how many people now, you know, hundreds of thousands of people. And I have toured to hundreds and thousands of people. And I work globally, so I'm very lucky. I work all over the world. And working over the world has also highlighted some of these, you know, the information that's been given and the information that's been given out, which quite frankly, in some cases can be pretty scary, you know. So here I am. I'm all yours. And I'm hoping that this will be interactive. I decided to do a visual podcast as well as a voice one, so you can see me speaking. So it means I've got to wash my hair and put some makeup on. So I've got to present myself to you, which I, you know, obviously I don't mind that. But it is, this show is for you. I have lined up some amazing people already that I know, that I've worked with. Some mediums from all over the world actually are going to be coming and chatting with me, and I'm also going to have like a panel, perhaps monthly, 6 weekly. We'll see how the you know, this evolves, see how the energy evolves with it, because I kind of want a little bit of a panel of people to be discussing things in front of you, and you are invited on that because it will be on Zoom, so you can come and join me in my Zoom room, and then we can share it out to the public. So if you want to get involved, if there are questions that you would like to ask personally, or you'd like to be in a panel audience for the podcast as well in the future, that will be will definitely be coming up. So it won't just be me talking to you for hours at a time. and hopefully it won't be hours at a time, but you know what we're like once we start chatting, us mediums, and sharing our gifts and our truth, you know. So and as I said, I've been working medium now for 22 years, which when I worked that out, I was like, gosh, that's a long time, isn't it? But it doesn't feel like it. It feels like a moment. And I can honestly say that when I work, when I teach, when I connect to spirit, or just connect psychically, do you know, on an individual basis, do you know, a soul to soul level, when I do that, I do still get excited. I do still feel like that this is still new. Do you know, I feel like every connection is something to be cherished, you know, and it's a real honor when people are trusting you to make a connection with them and make a connection to those people that they've loved that are on the other side of life. That's a real honor, and that should never ever be something like, oh yeah, I'm a medium, you know, I've got 5 readings today, whatever. You know, it should be that you take this for what it is. You know, you are, as a medium, you can change lives, and I'm very fortunate to say that I have done. And I feel sometimes I don't like talking about it, you know, and especially when I'm asked questions, you know, everyone always wants to know, have you read for celebrities? And it's like, yes, I have. But and when I say to them, well, yeah, I've read for you, and they say yes. Well, would you like me to talk about your personal life online or in a group setting or in an answer to a question? And of course they say no, I don't want my private life put out there. But they seem to think that somebody that's a celebrity doesn't, you know, can't afford that same sort of you know, anonymity. So yes, I do. And if any of my celebrity clients want to talk about me, that's up to them. But I do not chat about anything that has come out, because a lot of my readings are not well, they're not fluffy. Let's just say that. And a lot of the people that I've read for, celebrity or not, you know, I'm talking about across the board, obviously they're going through grief. A lot of them are going through grief. A lot of them are in pain as well. So my psychic clients generally are in pain. And a lot of people, as you can imagine, from the lockdown and COVID, etc., a lot of people are lost, and they are clearly lost. And they've, you know, we've all been sort of working from home or at home more. And do we really want to go back, you know, to the rat race? Do we really want to do that anymore? So there's been a lot of fundamental changes in people over the last 2 years. And that's also led, as we are all very, very aware, and thankfully we're all very aware of how much it has affected mental health. You know, it's so inspiring now that people will share and talk about their mental health issues and not be afraid or feel like they're going to be judged. You know, I myself, thankfully, I am quite strong now, but in my late 20s, when I very first started with readings and working with the public, and that all became, you know, too much for me. And I wasn't well known, you know, I wasn't a well-known medium at all. I was well known in my area, you know, and people used to talk and just come, you know, it was lovely. It was no social media back then. You know, I sound like a dinosaur, don't I? But it all got too much for me. And what happens is, as a medium and as a sensitive, what I do is I'm reading people's lives, obviously, and anything that they've gone through in their life is easy for me to pick up if I have an experience of it, if I have knowledge of it. So what was happening is I was reliving all of my past and anything, any of the traumas that I'd been through as a young person, over and over again, and it got too much for me. And I was so fortunate, and it makes me feel emotional just talking about it, because I was very blessed to find the most amazing counsellor. And she, on her advert, in the Yellow Pages, I found her, and on her advert, some people are like, what's that? On her advert, it said that she was a Reiki healer. And so it drew me to her, because I thought, when I tell her about myself, she's not going to think this girl's crazy. You know, she's going to actually have some kind of understanding or awareness of what a medium is, you know, what a psychic medium is. And I sat with her for 1 whole year, exactly a year. It was very strange, every week for 1 whole year. and I didn't work it out like that. I went for I went for my last session, which we hadn't spoken about. I went for my last session, and as I turned up, and I just said, I'm very grateful, thank you so much. This is my last session today. And she said she'd been looking in her diary that morning, and it was 1 year since I'd been going. So 1 year of just talking it out, just somebody there, somebody not judging you, you know, and you know, some of my traumas were pretty, you know, very personal. Obviously, we all have those, don't we? But I felt very safe. So I was very lucky, and I felt very safe. And I think that then gave me such an amazing grounding to then be able to once again go back into my work. And again, now when I relive some of those moments, some of those trauma moments of my own life for somebody else, I now appreciate them as a gift, you know, because I will tell my students, if you've been a student of mine, you know, I will say we embrace our pain. And that's truly what I do. And I worked through it. I embrace it. So every part of me, you know, every part of me is used for my work. But the painful parts are really what helps other people. And when I wrote my books, we were talking about the beginning of the book. I had a ghostwriter, which I find hilarious, being a medium. Sorry, it just makes me giggle every time I say it. An amazing, incredible man that worked with me. And I just spoke at him, and you can imagine, poor guy. We just discussed, and I spoke at him, and he kind of interviewed me, I guess, and we spent a few months together, and then he went away and wrote, you know, he wrote each book incredibly. I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud of the work that he did for me. But we started the book with me coming off stage and talking to a lady that had been, or was currently, was currently homeless with her children, and I gave her a copy of my book, you know, and she's I think knowing that you can be homeless, you can have absolutely nothing, you know, but I didn't have nothing. I had my children, I had good friends, and I had a safe place to be with those friends as well, you know. So most of my spiritual friends looked after me during that time. So again, being homeless, if me being homeless with my two gorgeous sons has inspired that lady to believe that life can change, then again, let's embrace that pain. Let's embrace that experience, which was really awful. I have to say, it was awful. Nearly 2 months of my life. Sorry, 2 months, 2 years, actually, 2 years of my life, 2 months, gosh, I wish. 2 years of my life that were difficult, again, challenging. That's what I use that term with my students at the moment. I say, you know, this exercise might be challenging, and they know I mean difficult, but you put it in a more positive way, and they do as they're told, really. So I just want to inspire, help, guide, debunk the myths, really, and really clear up some stuff that's out there. Do you know, I mean, there's a new, well, not new, is it? But I'm new to it. TikTok, and when I'm on there and I'm watching and I'm seeing, or my students are sharing, what do you think of this? What do you think of this question? And some of it is really informative and it's beautiful, but some of it I'm like, where have you been educated? Do you know, because an uneducated spiritual person is not safe. And what people are believing can really push them over the edge. And I have a beautiful client, and if you've read my book Living with a Gift, I was due to give up readings. I'd been filming Psychic Private Eyes with Colin, the late Colin Fry, and Tony Stockwell, and while I was away, I'd actually had an operation in the middle as well, and while I was away, someone had hacked into my then chat room that I used to have and taken over, and oh my word, the abuse that I was getting. And I just thought, I don't know if I can handle this. You know, death threats and all the names they were calling me. And I just thought, I just want to help people, you know. So I'd gone in on this on the 6th of January. I will never forget this day. It was the 6th of January. And if you've read my book, you know this story. And this lovely lady came to sit in front of me, and her dad came into the room from Spirit and kept saying that he'd passed within a 3, you know, so 3 weeks. It didn't feel, you know, 3 weeks, 3 months, no, 3 years, no. And her father had passed 3 days before. She'd already booked this reading in advance because he wasn't well, you know, and I guess she wanted to support her family with some information. And her name is Karen. She doesn't mind. She's in my book. So, and Karen came to see me, and then I've now met all the family, obviously, and the gorgeous man on the other side of life is called Roy, and he called for his lady, called for his wife. So we became very good friends. And even now, I don't always see them for readings anymore because they don't need to. You know, they don't need to. They know. Barbara, his wife, describes it as if Roy works on an oil rig and she gets a phone call with me, you know, every year or every couple of years now. But I feel, and I hope, well, I know, because have had some beautiful letters from her, that the reading gave her great confidence in that she would see Roy again, you know, when she passed. And then a few years ago now, a couple of years ago, she came to me. I think Roy's been gone maybe 13 years now. We may be, if I'm wrong, I'm sure we're around 13 years now. But she was very, very worried. She'd read a book, as you do, and always, Roy was always telling me, you know, I will be there for her. She's still very much alive, and we're very, very grateful for that. She's a beautiful lady. Her family's expanded, you know, and she got a new granddaughter. She's got a great granddaughter now, you know, so the family's expanding and growing, and she's been a part of all of that. And Roy got to meet their son on the other side of life that never made it here. And, you know, sometimes we'll come with him to communicate with mum and his sisters. Anyway, in this book, it says that you are not necessarily going to meet the people you love on the other side of life when you pass. So you can imagine Barbara's whole, you know, motivation, I guess, for living and carrying on with her family, and, you know, all her beliefs of one day her beautiful Roy will come and get her, you know, just smashed to pieces, not just smashed to pieces. There's no other way of saying it. And obviously, thankfully, I was there, and I was like, you know, he's told us many, many times. And you know, and then it gets me thinking, and I'm back to the guides. It's like, is this true? Will she be there? You know, am I being given the wrong information? Not doubting what I've said, because I've said what I was told. But come on, you know, why is somebody writing this? And why is that information being allowed to be out there? And it was very frustrating for me for a little while. And then when my nan passed, I remembered that my cousin was sat with my nan, and my other cousin had an ex-partner in spirit called Mark. And so my cousin is sitting with my nan as she's coming to the end of her life, the last few days of her life. And my nan is saying the name Mark. Now, Mark is not my granddad, and he's certainly not somebody that we would have thought of that Nan would have been calling to or aware of at the end of her life. But nonetheless, he was there. So I explained this to Bob, you know, and if my nan is catching up with, I mean, Mark was very, you know, very lovely to my nan. He was very lovely to me as well. Very, very lovely man. I didn't have to live with him, you know, so he wasn't my partner, but a very lovely person. And I thought, well, if my nan is calling him, so he is coming close at the end of my nan's life. So if somebody like that can be there, then 100%, you know, more than 100%, that Barbara's Roy will be there to greet her, you know. So again, these things that are written, and sometimes I don't know why. I don't know why people sometimes have to dramatize what we do, or you know, sort of is scaremongering sometimes, isn't it? Really, it's scaremongering. Well, that's not going to be any of that here. And I've got into many disagreements, shall we say, with people, and with people that have even interviewed me. And I've spoken about this before, so apologies if you've heard this story before. But I was doing a live radio show, and they just wanted, I think I was on tour, so I was going to be in the area. And so this gentleman was talking about the fact that he'd been, or someone had been, to a castle. I can't remember where it was. So let's just make it up, say Leeds Castle in Kent, wherever it was. He'd been to this castle and he'd heard a baby crying. And so there was this whole story then that this baby had cried. So the baby was, murdered. This baby was crying for its mum because the mum had been murdered. It was all of these stories, which were, that was the other story. The baby was a product of the lord of the castle, putting himself on one of the young maids that had worked there, or household, and then she'd got pregnant, and there was this whole story. And I just said, do you not think the baby might have just been crying? And it was like, again, not very popular with that answer, because I won't be dramatic about things. I won't make it up. I won't be all drama, because if that, I know some people do, but it's not necessary. My job is to keep it real, so that people are not frightened of the other side of life, not frightened when people are coming close to them. They're not being told there's demons, coming after them, all this sort of nonsense. And so the interview carried on, and I said, well, okay, so if I'm walking down my street and I hear a baby crying, I'm not necessarily thinking that baby has been murdered, or that baby, is a product of an attack or something like that. I'm just thinking, oh, that baby needs a cuddle from its mum. So could the baby have not just been letting everybody know that he or she was there and they were crying for their mum, who could have been a moment away, on the other side of life? Or perhaps the baby had lost the mum and, and started life as an orphan, who knows? But to put it into all these sometimes ridiculous stories, it's that's what we're here for. Because, and especially some of the places that I've worked, and Japan being one of them, I've spent a lot of time in Japan over the last 6 years. And one of the things that my Japanese students are always frightened of spirit. So my answer to them is, when they're in the room, we usually have about 50 students in the room, just have a look at each other, and they'll all sort of look at each other. And then I'll say, are you frightened of everybody in this room? Some people you might be, some might look a bit dodgy, but are you frightened of everyone in this room? And their answer is always, no, not at all. So it's like, so why are you frightened of the spirit world? Because one day, everybody in this room, myself included, will be in the spirit world. So again, it's trying to help people be sane, keep it real, and let's embrace the other side of life. Let's open our minds to it. And I was watching one of the Sex and the City, the new show, and just like that, and they were talking about Big, Mr. Big, he died, and Carrie thought that he was sending her messages through a lamp. And it was Charlotte that was in it that said, if it gives you comfort, and they were talking about it giving comfort. And if that's all I do, I know I do a lot more than that, but if that's all I do, then that's a good job, isn't it? Because when you're grieving, the most thing you need is a bit of love and a bit of comfort. And most importantly of all, to be allowed to grieve. That's very, very important, because sometimes grief is kind of, come on, stop crying, or, it's been a year, are you over it now? You're making a move, you need to move on, all of these things. And no, it needs to be done in its own time, step by step. And over the next few episodes, few months, however long we last on air, I will be talking about all things like that. So if you have any questions, this is not a forum for me to do readings. I do not do readings like this. If you've seen that I don't do live readings in on all the social media platforms, because I like to feel like you're safe with me. So if you were in a room with me on Zoom, if I'm doing an online demonstration, you know you're safe because I'm there. I can stop anything at any time. When you're just watching a live, I can't see you. I don't know if you're okay. So I won't just do readings like this. Okay, so but if you have questions about anything to do with anything spiritual, holistic questions, on your own experiences as well. Are you psychic? Are you a medium? How do you get to be one of these people? That's always one of those questions. Well, I can answer that one already. So I was born like this, always had strange things happening as I was growing up, and learned very quickly to hide those things. And natural medium, I guess that's what I would be called. So I'm a natural medium, but it doesn't mean that if, you know, that somebody that is just feel like they've got a calling, you know, usually grief, bereavement, trauma can kind of open up this side of you because you've gone through it yourself and you want to help and protect other people, you know. So I always say you've got to have had a little bit of that to be helpful, because if you don't know how it feels, the empathy can't be grown, you know. So but you don't have to be born under a certain moon or a seventh child or anything like that. No, if you want to dedicate your life to this and you want to give to people and you want to help people, spirit are not going to walk past it. Oh, sorry, you're born under the wrong moon. So that's not the case. So if you would like to join me in any way, please email tracy@tjhiggs.com and send your questions over, put in the subject box podcast, and we'll see what we can do. And I look forward to joining you all again. I'm going to have a very special guest very soon that runs a beautiful foundation called the Luca Foundation. So if you are on my Facebook page, you can find the Luca Foundation. We've just shared it, and we are raising money for the Luca Foundation, for Sharon and the Luca Foundation this year. So if you want to get involved in that, and if you want to listen to me on the radio, also run in the same kind of way, that's on Tuesday evenings, 7 till 9, and it's called True Spirit Radio. Come and be part of the family. Okay, so I'm going to love you and leave you. So just send in any questions or any topics you'd like me to cover. You know, this is your podcast. I'm here to use my expertise, my knowledge, everything I've been through, really, to help and guide you and maybe give you a little bit more confidence on the other side of life, and maybe help you feel a little bit more comfortable about that as well, you know. And please, if any of you, we were talking about mental health, and if any of you feel like you need some help and to talk, please reach out. There's so many people out there, and I know so many people are saying this, but it's true. And just check on those quiet friends, because it's usually the ones that aren't saying anything and the ones that are very strong all the time that are the ones that might just need that phone call or that text or that funny meme you might send out. Okay, well, I am TJ Higgs, and you have been listening to Spiritually Speaking.